Welcome everyone to Just Giants. This is a Giants news dump. I am the football Grump, and with me as always is Mike, the Cranky fan.
Dump away, Grump, whatever your name is.
Yeah, we're dumping here. So we were elbow deep in draft stuff and off-season stuff and free agent stuff, and Cranky fans shipping off to France today.
Sunday. I'll be out of here. Yeah.
So we were kind of wheeling and dealing and stuff, and a bunch of news happened that we didn't want to let go, but we didn't also want to work into those episodes because they don't fit, so we're just going to news dump. First things first, Kyle Rudolph and Devontae Booker cut. No shockers here, right?
No, I think we had both of them being cut when we did our cut down to $40 million off the cap.
We did.
The Rudolph one's a no-brainer. Just didn't work out for him.
Also, I mean, the whole signing was wild. He was signed pretty early. He was like, it was kind of the question mark, like, why do we have 4 tight ends right now? And
he was never utilized properly.
Well, nobody was, but yeah, absolutely. I also think that Kyle Rudolph is better than whatever we saw last year. But also, immediately after, we heard this weird rumor about an injury that takes a year to recover from, and we're going to honor the contract anyway. The whole thing was screwed the moment it was signed. So this writing was on the wall. He was going to be 1 year at best.
The Booker, like I said, we both had him as a cut down. I know he was a pleasant surprise last year. He carried a lot of water for us when Barkley went down, but our feeling was when we did our cuts, you can find him anywhere for probably a little cheaper for what his role will be on the team. So he's a guy that if we didn't have to make such cuts would probably still be on the roster, but such is life.
Such is life, yeah. He also was not, I don't know, Iron Man when he came in for Barkley. I mean, he played admirably and he played well, and he earned basically the amount of money that he should have for how he performed, but
he was serviceable. I mean, it wasn't like,
there
wow,
are tons of serviceable
really
backs. It's not like we were like, oh, we can't cut Booker. I mean, he played so well. He played fine. I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy, and I'm sure he'll get another contract doing exactly what he did for us last year somewhere else.
He'll probably make some good money based on what he did for us, considering how bad the offensive line is, considering we had backup quarterbacks, considering all the
coaching issues and shit.
Yeah. He'll probably make some money somewhere. It's just we don't have the money for him, and this team, quite frankly, isn't going anywhere, so they don't need him.
Yeah, and we need to cut money pretty much everywhere. So
he's not a piece of the future.
Very easily replaceable for the exact same talent. You know, I think the biggest shock is that, you know, we both kind of viewed Sterling Shepard as an unfortunate no-brainer, correct?
Assumption more than anything, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it wouldn't really. No, I think for me it was a no-brainer only because it just was already the right year for him. You know, at the beginning of the year, he looked like the best wide receiver on the roster, the most effective. And even in that moment at the very beginning of the year, I was like, it's probably his last year, though. I mean, the dead cap next year for him it just works out. This is a good time to cut him, you know, whatever. And then he gets injured, and it was like, well, now he's totally gone. But instead, reports are leaking out that the Giants are asking him to reduce his salary, take a pay cut, which I believe was all the way down to the vet minimum.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at this a couple ways. You know, it could be almost a courtesy for him, like, you know, we respect you for being here for so long and being a good Giant. We'd like to find a place for you to stay. Maybe they know he wasn't going to accept a pay cut that much. Maybe he might bet on himself. I'm not going to read too much into this until a move actually happens. But it is interesting. Again, based on how severe the injury was, based on what, you know, the salary situation he is, the salary situation we're in, I thought we were moving on, but apparently not.
Yeah, and it might be exactly like you said, where it's like, you know, they need to do a fire sale right now and cut everybody, but Sterling Shepard is the guy who has been here, put in the hard work. He's never really any complaints. You know, he's always looked good whenever healthy. It's just unfortunate is really what it looks like. So,
and this is off season. This is off season winning mode, where just sounds good that we're trying to keep him. It may not
But I
mean
will
much of
say
it.
though, there was like Jordan Renan was like, the Giants are about to take a machete to their roster, and thus far they've made two very obvious cuts, and then instead of a third obvious cut, they're asking him to take a pay cut. That's like the opposite of taking a machete. Yeah, I don't. This doesn't look like they're hacking away at shit.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
that also
it's
sounds
probably
like
still coming because there's no other way to get to $40 million.
that
But
sounds like clickable hyperbole is what that sounds like. A machete to it. I mean,
yeah,
they're going to make their cuts like, almost every team has to cut people, and there are surprise cuts on every team that you don't expect. And again, until I actually see Sterling Shepard sign for significantly less with this team,
in
I'll
any
believe that
capacity,
when I
yeah.
see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Is there any incentive for Sterling Shepard to sign that a reduced rate? Because I feel like, I mean, maybe he can stay here, and I'm sure there's not a huge market for a guy coming off of his injury right now. I guess maybe whatever he can do here and work out in the facilities that he's used to, rehab with the medical professionals that he's used to, and stay here. He can put on a show for a better contract after next year.
You know what I think? It sounds to me like a piece of the story wasn't leaked. I think
Sure.
part of that story was go look for another offer. And if you can get it, great. But if you can't,
This is what's on the table.
this is what's on the table.
Yeah,
Does that make more?
It
that makes more sense
absolutely
for
makes
everybody.
more sense. Yeah.
Right.
I think you might be right about that because
Yeah.
I was pretty floored by this news, but I was a little distracted at the moment. I was at work and whatever. But
How dare you choose work over the Giants?
yeah.
What's wrong with you?
well, I saw it. I still looked at the phone and I was like, but I didn't invest a ton of thought into it anyway because it's a source report. It's nothing
think that-
actually happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to tell him go out and look for something.
Yeah.
And which, so I mean,
He may not find anything, right?
That means they have to cut him first, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he can talk during his agent can't talk to teams during the tampering period because he's not a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there's no reason for his agent to just call GMs and whatever.
I guess you could call
the
and
tampering
say,
period once the tampering period's over and free agency truly starts, it would be like hypothetically if Sterling Shepard were a free agent, what's your level of interest? I don't think there's anything wrong with that phone call.
I don't know. I mean, if you're under contract, you're under contract. Then it becomes not free agent tampering, but straight up tampering. Like you really can't talk to somebody under contract.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess also, if you're Sterling Shepard, I mean, if you're gonna say, well, would you come back for the minimum? You just say no, and then they'll like, okay, we'll cut you, then we'll talk. So
Well, I mean, essentially, sorry, isn't that the same thing? We're just reversing the order, so they just cut him first, knowing that the minimum offer's on the table. He goes around on the market, and then eventually he might come back.
They have to cut him first so he can go out and actually talk to other
Right.
teams.
So then, is that report then like, look, there's a minimum contract offer on the table. We're going to cut you, but not yet. We're just letting you know for now, so you can set your affairs in order with your free agent. Go out there and get yourself a deal. But if not, this is always on the table for you.
I think that's it. I think that's it.
Last question for you on this is, do you want him back? You.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's probably going to take a year for him to recover. I mean, when is he realistically going to be back on the field again?
Well, isn't it an Achilles injury, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he may not. So much of his job description relies on planting and cutting, especially him of all wide receivers. Mm-hmm. I'm of the mind that he may not ever. There's a, I don't know, 30% chance that when he returns to form, his new form is so low that he just doesn't have an NFL career anymore.
So to answer your question from before, if you're Sterling Shepard, you take this deal because the market for him probably is extremely low.
Yeah. But what's your take if you were GM of the New York Giants?
I move on.
Yeah, I think this is like a good faith deal, and if he signs it, it's awesome. Good for you. Go ahead, go in the
But
rehab things and whatever, and then you become a fifth option. You're a smart guy.
if
You're
he
hard
comes on, if he gets back on the field,
if he gets back on the field,
if he can't even get back on the field to, let's say, week 9 or 10.
well, it's low risk, right? So he signs a vet minimum. Who cares? You
Well,
know what
I mean, if we're pinching pennies,
I think we end up saving more that way than outright cutting it. Well, no, because we take the dead cap hit from cutting him and then add on his salary, which I don't know if that then it doesn't combine, right?
Yeah,
No,
and also
no, it doesn't combine.
For that case, you might as well get somebody who at least can be on the roster, who can actually contribute. Because again, he may not even get on the field for a year after the injury, and
Well, then I guess my real last question is there any market for Sterling Shepard? Is it above the vet minimum around the league, you think?
probably not.
You don't think there's some team that will offer him like a 2-year low
That's probably
deal?
why the story was leaked. Because
Oh,
you kind of know the outcome. It's like,
yeah.
go ahead and look, but when you're ready to come back, we'll offer. I mean, it's like kind of, again, whatever that vet rook minimum is, they just kind of have it as a low cost lottery pick. I just again don't know if we have the money even to afford lottery tickets right now.
I move on. I love
I do
Sterling
too.
Shepard, and I wish that we could have the version of him. Not that it's his fault that he got hurt, but I wish we had the version that he looked like he was going to be at the beginning of last year, because he even from the summer he looked insane.
Yeah.
But at this point, part of the reason I was okay with cutting him to begin with was because we kind of really drafted his replacement. There's already a starter slot receiver on this roster, and his name is Kadarius Toney, so I'm okay
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
That's all I've got on this Giants news dump. Do you have any last notes?
Nothing. I mean, the press conference this week with Joe Shane, didn't really have anything of any interest. I mean, it was a lot of off-season GM speak and coach speak.
Hurrah. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I am not somebody who tries to read between the lines what these guys say. I don't want them saying anything. I want them to unzip their pants and show you what they got before
Not me.
free
anyway,
agency
yeah.
in the draft or any trade. So, okay, if you
For the
everybody
people
who's
that like the
enjoying
press
this offseason, I
conferences,
think
that's fine. If you guys enjoy it, that's fine. My personal take is that unless it's illuminating in some way, which I didn't find any of it to be, it's just nice.
and I don't want it to be. Again, I like to keep things relatively close to the vest. But something, we are getting positive momentum from the fan base from these hires, and if all of this narrative helps make you feel better about all of this, then it does its job.
I guess so.
Because
It's a good way.
something, if this team is 3-13, there's going to be a certain section of the fan base that's going to be like, we made mistakes in grumbling starts. So let's build up as much capital and goodwill now, whatever blah, 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 blah they say, because it's probably going to be spent pretty quickly.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yep.
All right, that's going to do it for this Giants news dump. I assume that there will probably be a couple of these more as we go through the draft process and more players get cut or added or whatever. So stay tuned for the next one. In the interim, please follow us on Twitter for more instant news break stuff. I'm at football_Grump. He's at the Cranky fan. And we will see you all next time. Go Giants.
Go Giants.